Hello! I took this week's photo in the extraordinary Cathedral Mosque of Cordoba, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that was visited by over 2 million people in 2024 and was built by one of the most advanced civilizations in Europe at the time, the Umayyad Caliphate. On the same trip to Andalusia, from the Arabic name Al-Andalus, we also visited the amazing Alhambra in Granada, another World Heritage Site built by a European Islamic dynasty with over 2.5 million visitors a year. But how do these magnificent buildings and their illustrious creators fit into the traditional nationalistic narrative of Spanish history and identity? They are reminders that Spain's roots are not only Christian or even Western, but the rulers who built them are typically seen as foreign invaders who had occupied a country that needed to be reconquered to regain its true identity. Which leads us to the question, when did Spain become Spain? With the Celts, who migrated from the east of Europe to mix with the Iberians and the indigenous pre-Indo-European peoples, with the invasion and domination of the Romans, with the Germanic Visigoths who took over after expanding across the Pyrenees from France, it's complicated. So, let's find out more. When did Spain become Spain? The traditional narrative of Spanish nationhood centers around the Reconquista, the supposed 800-year Christian reconquest of the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule. However, this presentation examines the complex and nuanced history behind Spain's formation and explores how modern conceptions of Spanish identity have been shaped by historical interpretation and political motives. The Iberian melting pot, 35,000 years of human history. The Iberian Peninsula has seen successive waves of migration and settlement. Central European Celtic groups migrate across the Pyrenees and mix with indigenous groups such as Iberians, Tartessians, and pre-Indo-European peoples, 9th to 6th centuries BCE. Phoenician and Greek coastal settlements, 11th to 4th centuries BCE. Roman conquest and 700 years of Hispania, 200 BCE to the 5th century CE. Germanic Visigoths expand out from Gaul to establish the Visigothic kingdom, 5th to 8th centuries CE. Moorish conquest beginning in 711 CE, establishing Al-Andalus. This rich tapestry of civilizations makes it difficult to identify any single ethnic or cultural group that could claim to be the original inhabitants of Spain, complicating the traditional narrative of reconquest. The traditional narrative, birth of a nation in 1492. 718 CE, Don Pelayo's victory at the Battle of Covadonga marks the beginning of the Reconquista. 11th to 15th centuries, gradual Christian expansion southward through the peninsula with multiple Christian kingdoms competing and collaborating. 1469, marriage of Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon, uniting the two largest Christian kingdoms. 1492, fall of the Emirate of Granada, completion of the Reconquista, Columbus begins his voyages. Conventional history marks 1492 as the birth of Spain as a unified Christian nation. The Catholic monarchs completed the Reconquista and laid the foundations for Spain's golden age as a global empire. challenging the Reconquista narrative. Modern historians question the concept of a Reconquista and ask questions about Spanish identity. Was Spain not Spain during 8 centuries of Moorish rule? Can we really speak of a reconquest spanning 800 years? Does the term erase the contributions of pagan Romans and Islamic civilizations to Spanish culture? Historian Javier Peña notes that the term Reconquista only emerged in the 19th century, serving nationalist ideologies rather than emphasizing historical accuracy. Alternative theories of Spanish nationhood. 1492, the traditional date. The union of Castile and Aragon, the defeat of Granada, and the beginning of Spain's imperial era mark the conventional birth of the nation. 1556, separation from the Holy Roman Empire. When Charles I abdicated in favour of Philip II, separating Spanish territories from the broader Habsburg Empire, creating a distinct Spanish monarchy. 1700, the Bourbon centralisation. Philip V's accession brought French-inspired centralisation, replacing the previous federation of kingdoms with a more unified state structure. 1812, constitutional definition. The first Spanish constitution explicitly defined the Spanish nation and established a modern understanding of national sovereignty. Historian Henry Kamen, in The Invention of Spain, argues that the concept of a continuous 800-year reconquest is implausible, noting that no military campaign in history has ever lasted that long. Why 1492? Politics of historical memory. The emphasis on 1492 as Spain's founding moment serves particular historical and political narratives because it combines several momentous events. Catholic triumph over Islam with the fall of Granada. Forced conversion or expulsion of Jews and Muslims. Union of the 2 largest Iberian kingdoms. Beginning of Spain's colonial empire with Columbus's voyage. This narrative gained prominence in the 19th century, offering a story of past glory as a counterpoint to losing the American colonies. However, it oversimplifies a diverse and complex history into a triumphalist Christian reconquest story that erases centuries of multicultural coexistence and exchange. Chat about these questions and write down your opinions and ideas. Number 1. When on holiday, do you enjoy visiting historical sites and museums? Give examples. If not, why not? Number 2. Did you pay much attention to history classes when at school? Do you read about history now? Number 3. Do you know much about the history of your local area? Describe as much as you can. Number 4. Describe pre-1492 tourist sites in Spain. For example, the mosque in Cordoba. How Spanish are they? Number 5. What do you think contributes to a national identity? Think about Spain and at least one other country.